Hello and welcome. Every culture on Earth has its ghost stories, tales that are designed to make your skin crawl. But what if I told you these stories do more than just scare us? What if they're actually a window into what a society really fears? Today, we're going to dig into two incredibly chilling tales, one from a village in India, the other from the schoolyards of Japan, to see what they reveal about us all.
So let's just start with the big one. Why? Why do we love to tell scary stories? Is it just for that cheap thrill, that jump scare, or is there something deeper going on? We're going to find out that horror stories are often these powerful cultural warnings designed to teach us something about a community's biggest anxieties. So here are our two hauntings from completely different parts of the world. On one side, we have a story from India. It's about a deeply personal curse, something born from a dark family secret. And on the other, a widespread Japanese urban legend that basically terrorizes kids. Two very different spirits, two very different worlds, and as you'll see, two very different warnings.
All right, let's dive right into our first story, a bride's cursed love.
So picture this. We're in a small village in Bihar, India. Alok has just married the love of his life, Purnima. And their relationship, it was fun, it was loving, it was playful. This little quote here where Purnima is affectionately teasing Alok, calling him an ox or a fool, that was their thing. It was their love language. It just shows you how deep their bond was, right before everything went horribly wrong.
The horror started literally on their wedding night. Purnima looked out the window and saw herself, a terrifying floating double of her, just staring back. And from there, things just spiraled. We're talking about her laughing for no reason, cutting off her own hair, and actually chewing it. At one point, she was found hanging upside down inside a well, just casually talking to her own reflection. The whole descent was so fast, and it ended in the worst way imaginable. And this, right here, this is what's so chilling. It's the whiplash. The same night she was tenderly holding her new husband's hand, she suddenly clamped down and bit it, hard enough to draw blood. The woman he loved was just gone, replaced by something violent, something he didn't recognize. The question was, why? What happened?
Now, to get to the why, we have to understand this beautiful tradition called the Khoincha. It's a really lovely custom. When a daughter gets married and leaves home, her mother gives her this little bundle. It's usually filled with things like rice, turmeric, some money, but really it's packed with a mother's love and blessings for a happy marriage. It's a symbol of pure love.
But here's the gut punch. The source of Purnima's torment, it wasn't some random demon. It was hidden inside that very symbol of love. See, her parents couldn't stand that she'd married Alok, a man from a different social caste, so they went to a sorcerer, and they turned that sacred bundle of blessings into a vessel for a deadly curse. So when you really peel it all back, the supernatural horror was actually born from a very, very human tragedy. Purnima's parents had a choice, their daughter's life and happiness, or their social honor, and they chose honor. The ghost that haunted Purnima wasn't just some spirit. It was a monster they created themselves out of prejudice. Okay, let's switch gears completely. Now for our second story, the bathroom dare. We're moving from that intimate, private tragedy to a very public, very widespread urban legend from Japan. All right, so meet Yumi. She's the new kid in school, and you know how it is. She's just trying to fit in. So a couple of other girls pressure her into this dare. The challenge? Go into the famously haunted third-floor bathroom and try to summon the ghost that supposedly lives there. It's a classic setup for teenage horror, right? Peer pressure plus the supernatural. And this legend, it's got a very specific, almost recipe-like ritual. You have to go to the girls' bathroom on the third floor. You knock 3 times, specifically on the third stall. And then you have to ask the question, Hanako-san, are you there? Now the legend says if a little voice answers, yes, I am here, that door is going to fly open and a ghostly hand will pull you into the toilet. Gone forever. But who exactly was Hanako-san? Well, that's part of what makes her so creepy. Nobody really knows for sure. Some people say she was a kid who died during an air raid in World War II. Others say she was murdered by an intruder or even a parent. The backstory changes, but her home is always the same. That vulnerable, isolated space of a school bathroom stall. Hanako-san is a perfect example of a very specific kind of Japanese spirit called an onryo. If you've ever seen The Ring, you know exactly what I'm talking about. These are vengeful ghosts. They're stuck here in our world because they have a powerful grudge from being wronged in life. They aren't just floating around being spooky, they are driven by a need for justice, or, more often, revenge.
Okay, so we have a cursed bride in India and a vengeful schoolgirl in Japan. Let's put these two ghosts side by side and really look at their anatomy.
When you lay them out like this, the differences are huge. Purnima's spirit is completely personal. It's a targeted curse, creating a doppelganger, and it's triggered by a specific family ritual. The victim is one person. Hanako-san is the total opposite. She's a public urban legend, she's anonymous, and she's triggered by a simple dare. Her victim could be absolutely anyone brave or foolish enough to call her name.
So what is the point of all this? Of all this fear? Well, like we said at the start, these stories are so much more than campfire tales. They are carrying some pretty urgent messages for the cultures that tell them.
Each ghost is basically a flashing warning sign. Purnima's story is a devastating critique of social prejudice. It shows how the fear of losing so-called honor can become way more monstrous than any spirit. Hanako-san's story, on the other hand, is a much more universal warning about the dangers of peer pressure and the kind of reckless curiosity that gets kids into trouble.
And that's really why these stories stick around. Ghosts are like cultural mirrors. They take the shape of a society's deepest, darkest anxieties, whether that's the horror of being punished for who you love or the everyday fear of trying to fit in at school. The ghosts might look different, but their job is always the same: to give a face to the things that haunt us from the inside.
And that leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. Purnima's ghost was literally created by her parents' prejudice. Hanako-san only appears because of teenage carelessness and cruelty. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if the real monster isn't the spirit in the well or the ghost in the bathroom stall, but the human darkness, the hate, the fear, the recklessness that calls them into being in the first place? Something to think about. Thanks for joining.